In this episode of the RV Small Talk podcast, we have a special guest all the way from Australia. This is Vaughn Hindley, and he is the founder, creator, the one who has really been the driving force behind the brand MDC-USA, and MDC long before that, Down Under. We are so proud to carry their products, but we want the background, the story, just the events that made this company, grew it, and got the products out there all over the world, really. So today, our special guest, Vaughn Hindley. Welcome to the RV Small Talk podcast, where we talk about lightweight trailers, truck campers, and people, places, and adventures that go right along with them. We're your hosts from Princess Craft RV. I'm Clint.
I'm PJ.
And I got a new fidget.
Oh, it's true. Yeah, it's squishy.
Yeah.
So, PJ, we have a guest, and it's been kind of a long time coming. This is Vaughn. May I introduce you?
Vaughn's here.
Hi, Vaughn.
I know, finally. How good. And thank you for welcoming me on your podcast.
Sure.
Oh, absolutely.
Sure.
Absolutely. MDC, I think we didn't talk about that right off the bat. A lot of people may not know what MDC is. Mm-hmm. First of all, shame on you.
Ooh.
Yeah. Well,
there's a first time to know something.
Hey, all right. If you don't know anything about RVs, I get it. But it is a very interesting, it's different. It is a different style product. It's meant for overlanding, off-roading. It's rugged. Mm-hmm. And you step inside and wow, it feels like a high-end New York high-rise apartment inside.
That's the thing, is it's this rolling juxtaposition, but that I really like.
Yes.
On the outside, you see the ground clearance, you see the rugged build, you see off-road tires, and you see, if you even get slightly down, you don't have to even get all the way to the ground. You see incredible suspension, big old galvanized steel underneath.
Are we doing a commercial?
I mean, it's just one of the things. So that's what you see on the outside.
Yeah, it
is
the
inside,
a battle axe of a trailer with the most plush interior. So for those of you who don't know what an MDC is, now you know. So, Vaughn.
The question is why?
Yeah, the question is, huh? So I love it. But you know what, Vaughn? My very first question out of the gate is, where did you start and how did you get to building MDC? Did you turn 18 and say, I think I'd like to build this really cool trailer?
I love a good origin story.
So where did it start?
Okay, I'll try and make this as quick as possible.
Oh, no. We love long stories.
Right.
Draw it out.
Y'all settle in out there.
What I want
we're gonna
is
hear a story.
5, and this one answer, 5 pregnant pauses.
Okay. A pregnant pause. I'm actually not aware what that is.
Yeah, what's a pregnant? Me neither. I'm with you, Vaughn.
It's a pause that is loaded with a deep answer on the back end. It's like
a large
when you take a long breath, and you've heard this in talks and speeches or questionnaires where they pause, and you have to think, what are they thinking? And then they lay it on you, and you're like, oh, that was wow. So pregnant pauses.
Pregnant pause. Okay. I have never heard that before.
We're educating the audience in so many ways.
Yeah. So when someone actually thinks about their answer and delivers it, and you're like, wow, that is a well thought answer, that's that pause.
Well, Vaughn, no pressure. That sounds awful.
It all started with 12-volt camping jugs.
What?
That's where it all started.
12-volt camping jugs. So is this fresh water delivery system?
I don't think I know what that is.
A kettle.
What are jugs?
A 12-volt kettle to make coffee whilst camping. That's where it started.
That's where it started.
Yeah.
What?
So I'll tell you the story.
Yeah.
Yes.
I can't
Do you
wait.
still have that 12-volt kettle?
No, I was selling them. So
What?
I was a croupier at the...
A what?
A croupier.
We're going to need so much translation.
Like Jack dealer. Like Jack roulette dealer at the casino.
Wow, you were a dealer.
Everybody, I'm putting a thesaurus or something at the end of this show notes, but we are learning lots of terminology, and I love it. Carry on.
Yeah, I'll try and interpret.
A croupier.
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 Yeah, so dealing cards at the casino. I did that coming out of school, basically. And around the 2002, I bought a set of 6 12-volt camping jugs on eBay as a bulk lot.
Yeah.
And I separated them and I sold them one by one.
Yeah.
And I made a profit. I doubled my money. I thought this was really cool. So I went and bought some more.
That was in the era of eBay businesses.
just starting.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
eBay was just starting to be a thing.
Yeah.
And so did that, thought this was pretty cool, and then bought more camping equipment from bulk lots on eBay, and then eventually found out who was actually buying them, who was the supplier, and went to them directly, obviously to get a better price. And then solar lights started getting pretty popular in Australia. They're a new thing. A solar light is a little garden light, has a solar panel on top,
Okay, got it.
and a little LED light. Right? And so I was buying them from the local Crazy Clark's. Crazy Clark's is like a dollar shop, I guess.
Crazy clocks.
Yeah.
Clark's
A doll shop.
dollar shop.
Dollar shop. Dollar Tree
Yeah.
Oh my
in
goodness.
Australia. So here I was, I'd buy a pack
That
of,
was so much fun.
High for this.
I would buy a pack of 6 solar lights for like $10 each, $60. And because Australia is such a wide, expansive area, not everywhere has shopping centres and stuff. And so people would buy this stuff on eBay for typically $160. So I'd make $100 profit going, this is pretty cool.
You're right.
Whoa.
And from there, at one point, and we started sourcing the solar lights out of China. So my first half container, 20-foot container, rocked up on our doorstep, and we actually filled our house from floor to roof with solar lights. So I'd be sitting in the lounge room with my wife.
And was that like a really illuminating experience?
Well, they were still in the box, so I couldn't see them.
It was
anyway.
a boxing experience, apparently.
So we'd filled the house up, the spare bedroom, the lounge room, literally, the boxes everywhere.
Oh, that's great.
And Melinda's mum would come over. We'd sell this stuff on eBay. She'd pack it up. Australia Post would come to us in their truck and actually pick this stuff up and deliver it to customers. That's really cool. Anyway, we'll get on to the MDC part of it. We found in China a rooftop, not a trailer tent. And so we'd gone, this is a pretty cool thing, right?
Right.
In Australia, the cheapest travel trailer you could buy was $12,000.
Okay.
Well, that's pretty cheap.
Yeah, but
Although I don't know what else you could buy with.
But that was
12,000.
very agricultural. Like it's a tent trailer, cheap. And so we
Like a
found,
utility trailer with a tent on top,
yeah,
sort of thing?
Yeah, like a garden trailer with a tent on top. And so we'd actually, the most expensive part was actually sewing up the tent, and we'd sourced a factory in China that had that particular tent, and we brought it over and we literally attached it to a box trailer. So it was very agricultural, very simple, didn't have water tanks, no electrical system, no kitchen, whatever. And then we were selling them online for about $5,000 each.
And this idea came from just seeing one, or you just happened across an opportunity?
Just happened to get introduced by a partner of mine overseas that said, hey, have a look at this. What do you think? And I said, oh, that might work well. And so that sort of where we started. We were selling those on eBay and they were going crazy. Go into our first warehouse, which was pretty scary. It would have been about 2,000 square feet. And that was probably around 2007. So first retail operation. And these basic trailers were going off. They were very, very popular in the Australian market because I guess we were coming in at a very good price. And
were they called MDC? What were they called?
called market direct campers.
Market direct campers.
Yeah. So, you know, the way we were doing the business is we were selling direct to the consumer.
Right.
So market
right.
direct campers became MDC.
Makes sense.
Oh, market direct campers.
Yeah.
MDC.
I get it.
Got it.
Wow. So when people ask you now what MDC stands for, do you say market direct campers?
That's where it come from. Yeah.
Yeah.
It could be multiple destination campers.
There you go.
Yeah.
We could
That's
come with
a much
all
cooler
kinds
name,
of crazy
right?
stuff.
It is, right? But just starting in business, you don't think about
Right.
those things like, you know, now
Sure.
it's easy to create brands, right?
Yeah.
Right. But I would think also at that time, market direct had a real draw because it just screams you're saving money.
Yeah.
You know, we're direct from the manufacturer straight to you, so you get a cheaper price. I mean, that was kind of the the theory of a lot of things on eBay. So I can see where that came from.
Yeah, and at the same time, so you had solar lights. We were doing mini bikes, ATVs, go-karts under the Market Direct brand. We even did water pumps, generators. And so Market Direct could actually be anything.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
Right.
So were you always interested in this kind of outdoor pursuits and activities kind of world, or did you just find yourself continuously being kind of drawn into it?
We were always, as a family, we were always out camping with my brothers and my father.
Okay.
But it wasn't really, we weren't business orientated. My parents worked for the government. So we didn't really, I didn't have any sort of business training. So it's sort of been entrepreneurial, I guess. Seen an opportunity, jumped on it. It's been very successful. So from the tent trailers in 2013, we decided to build our first hybrid caravan.
First what?
Hybrid caravan. Pop top.
Hybrid caravan.
Hybrid. Okay, thank you.
In Australia, they're called a hybrid. So what that sort of means, it's a mix between a tent trailer and a caravan. And essentially what it is, it has an external kitchen. So the kitchen comes out, stainless steel kitchen comes out the side. We find in Australia, a lot of people like to cook outside because they don't want the smells inside. And typically you'll find in Australia, we'll only cook on the inside if it's absolutely pouring down rain and you can't be outside and not get wet.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah, so the first hybrid caravan in 2013. So we've been building those now for around about 11 years. And, you know, year after year, the quality gets better. We have quite a large engineering team now. In Australia, we have about 170 people on our team and 8 locations around there.
Wow. Yeah.
And then made a decision a few years ago to, come to the US, and we've been lucky enough to partner with Princess Craft. So thank you, PJ, for choosing us.
Well, it was mutual.
Yeah, and we've got a very different product to what typically is in the US market, and so it is very robust. It's made differently. In Australia, we don't have the nice roads that you guys have here. Like, I've been coming to the US now for a few years, and I just love driving on your highways. Like, they're just so smooth.
So you haven't been to Louisiana yet?
I was going to say.
Yeah. There are certain parts that...
Yeah.
I love those roads where you're like, cha-chunk, 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 cha-chunk,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
all the seams. But you know what? It's still so much better than a lot of roads overseas that just aren't maintained like we do here. We're pretty spoiled.
Have you ever been to Australia, Mom?
I have not.
Oh. Has Dad ever been to Australia?
No.
Have you ever been to Australia?
No, I was in Asia. I've done
Caitlin.
Mexico, Asia, and Canada.
Caitlin's
We
never...
have never been. I have been invited so many times. I do have friends there. And
Oh, really?
just haven't gotten there. So
If you come to Australia, I'll show you some amazing places.
Will you show me a baby kangaroo?
Absolutely.
They're all over the place.
They're everywhere.
Do you have them in your house?
I don't, not in my house, but some people do. You don't have to go far.
Yeah.
Like 20 miles out of town, you'll see a kangaroo.
Okay, back to campers.
She's already planned her trip.
yeah.
So do you
Well,
still make that first model? Is that still in your bevy of products?
No. So that, in Australia, we would call that a soft floor camper, and they were very popular. But from the evolution from a soft floor, and what it means with a soft floor, the trailer's here, the tent folds out, and there's a canvas floor, and that's sitting on the ground. So that's a soft floor. The next iteration was what we call a hard floor. So the trailer would actually fold out to the back. That would be a rear fold, and the floor is solid. Or it folds out to the front, and that's a forward fold.
Okay.
And the better thing about that is it's a little bit more secure. It's a little bit out off the ground. In Australia, we have a lot of creepy crawlies and crazy animals.
I have heard that everything will kill you in Australia.
Baby kangaroos, they're dangerous.
Oh yeah,
Be careful.
vampire baby
I'll be very
kangaroos.
careful.
Well, it's kind of like, people here find wild animals and they want to pet them. How many people get mauled by baby bears because they want to get up close?
Not very many, actually.
Idiots.
But it is a thing, I suppose.
Well, it happened recently. That's why it came to mind.
An anecdote is proof of an anecdote.
Yes. And then there's
Fight. What's happening right now?
Nothing. Okay, back to Australia. I would like to take a quick break, and I want to know what your favorite game is to deal.
Oh yeah.
I always like blackjack, and I've dealt some crazy games, right? So I worked my way up in the casino into the high rollers room. I've been there when there's people betting on baccarat, $150,000 a hand.
So you're nervous about being on a podcast, and you can deal in a high roller room?
Yeah, and I
Wow.
the crazy things, right? And these guys are typically come over from Asian countries because they're the guys that
Right.
bet pretty big. And this particular guy, when you're actually shuffling the cards, he would put cool mints under the table and starts
What?
cool mints. Cool mints are like a little round peppermint type lolly.
Okay. A
don't know
candy.
what they
Like a
call it.
lifesaver mint.
Yeah, that's what I'm imagining.
Yeah. So he'd throw
Tic
those
Tac.
under the table while I'm shuffling the cards, doing like a seance or a chant, so that the evil spirits would eat the cool mints and not get into the cards.
Oh, he's
Love it.
distracting them.
Love it.
Yeah.
I'm on board.
Wow.
Did he win?
Mints.
All right, we should try that.
Did he win?
No, he lost a lot of money.
Yeah.
From someone who's worked at the casino, don't gamble. It doesn't work. You can't
It
win.
never works.
There's a reason why Vegas is so big.
Yeah. Well,
Yes.
you're coming to RVDA in November,
I know. How
right?
cool.
In Las
Are you?
Vegas. So,
Wow. Can we play blackjack with you?
Sure.
oh man, they would.
Wouldn't
Vaughn
that be
did
If
not
they
want to say
find
yes
out-
to that.
He
I don't
didn't.
know if you
He
got
didn't.
that vibe.
I think he
but-
didn't want to say no.
I'm not very exciting though. I'm like $5 a hand, and that's as far as I go.
Oh, I'm a boring blackjack player.
Yeah.
But
She's in it to play for a while.
I'm in it to, I
Enjoy
am,
the fun of
I
it.
am not the blackjack player you want to sit next to because I'm like, oh, whoa. And then I'm always having fun regardless of who wins and loses.
Mm-hmm.
I totally expect to lose. I mean,
Yeah.
And if you're only playing $5 a hand, you're only going to lose like $50 or $100.
yeah.
It's all about the fun, something to do, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I'm out.
It's like paying for a movie. You could sit there for, $20 and up to 2 hours, or you can sit at blackjack. It's entertainment.
RVDA.
Yeah.
Our new XT19 HRT model will be at RVDA.
So much
Ooh.
fun is going to be had.
TikTok.
That's awesome. Awesome. Okay. So
Where were we in the story?
Yeah, so clearly you have some sort of ambition, some idea of facing the danger, because you've got to be pretty aggressive to work your way up to a high roller table, right? So what is it in you that keeps looking for the next step, the next thing?
Yeah, I think things that work for us, and it did come from the previous work as well, I guess, is attention to detail, being able to see opportunities, see what's going on in the market. But yeah, living and breathing business and, caravanning and what's going on in the world, I guess. You'd know, PJ, yourself as a business owner, you don't ever turn off.
Yeah, so you
She
were
doesn't.
just seeing opportunities and then just trying to say, how do we fit in? How can we do it better?
Yeah.
So, I mean, do you think it's just random that you ended up in the trailer business? Because sometimes I feel that way. Kind of random that I ended up here, but in some ways I think I kind of navigated here because I liked it. So how did it feel to you?
Yeah, I think initially it was just I really fell into it, and that's how I talked to people about it. But it was really the way forward for our business that was growing. And so, we had this much focus and then across different products, but then we just narrowed in on the RVs. And, when you're new to a industry, and you guys probably went through some back in the day when you first started, I think it was 1968 or something. You don't know what you don't know. And so we
Right.
made this tent trailer, and all of a sudden the national bodies rocked up to my office and knocked on the door and gone, "Oh, Vaughn, can we have a chat?" And I'm like, "Oh, geez."
Uh-oh.
The national bodies?
So the National Caravan Industry Association of Australia.
Oh, okay.
So they're RVDA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty
They're the
much.
national
Yeah.
caravan group.
We need to talk to you, Vaughn, and I think that was in around 2010 or 11. There's some problems with your trailers. They don't comply. And I'm like, what do you mean they don't comply?
Right.
And they're like, well, we've come across this. You need to do A, B, C, D. And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, guys. Yeah, I need to do that. You don't know what you don't know. I'll get that fixed straight away. And so we fixed it straight away. And then all of a sudden, compliance became a big thing. Because you can put products into the market, but you don't want recalls or you don't want products being returned. So part of what we do is we use quality materials. We use where the compliance is needed. We're very serious about that. We'll only use compliant products. And sometimes there's different rules in the US to what there is in Australia. We find Australia on certain things a lot stricter.
Yes.
But we actually incorporate those Australian rules into the US rules.
Which I think is smart because stuff like that will be coming down the pipe to the US at some point, probably.
Yeah, it's never going to get more lenient. It's only
Yeah.
going to get more strict. So then you're already compliant.
As long as California is out there, then there's going to be more and more rules for compliance coming.
Dig on California right there.
Well, I mean it's going to happen.
It's facts.
But also it's good for your business. So we are building serious off-road products that will go anywhere that you're prepared to tow and get you home. And so it's also about building a better product. And you know, sometimes you can just get things over the line on a compliance aspect, but in the real world, they're actually not going to work.
Right.
They might fail because people are taking these things in extreme conditions. And so when we talk about the chassis, right, our chassis are a factor 5. So in Australia, there is a ADR, Australian Design Rule, for a chassis that has to meet a certain standard. For an off-road trailer, we like to build them at factor 5, so it's 5 times the standard. In the US, you don't have a standard at all, but we bring...
And we proudly... No, we don't.
I was going to say, what?
Careful.
Because I don't know of any standards. They
On
just
the
talk about this
chassis, no.
construction is better, that construction is
Right.
better. This is a 8-inch frame. This is a 5-inch frame.
Right.
You know, we don't really have any rating system.
But also another thing too, when you talk about an 8-inch frame or a 4-inch or 5-inch frame, what's the actual thickness of
that was
the
my
material?
thing.
And also, what is the grade of steel? There's different grades of steel. And so you can build something that looks big and thick, but it's a lower grade of steel, so it's gonna
Right.
it may break, it may not, I'm not sure. But there's a thing you can do, it's called FEA, finite element analysis, and that's where you actually put the chassis into a computer, typically on SolidWorks, and you actually put forces on certain parts of the chassis like it would be in the field.
Find
and
what the stresses are.
yeah, it'll tell you like
up.
red is bad, blue and green is good.
Right.
And you know, you build the computer model, and that's the first step. And you have to do that in Australia to be compliant.
So
Wow.
when you started out, you basically had a trailer idea, a trailer concept presented to you. It worked. You brought it in. You tested it in the market, brought it to the market, and all that. But this, where we're at in the conversation now, is into the realm of engineering. It's not something that was put before you and say, you know, let's give that a shot. Now MDC is, let's design, let's engineer, let's test, let's go for compliance, let's make sure that these are, you know, everything that we want them to be and put out there that they will be. So what was that transition from, hey, trailer available to sell, let's give it a go, to no, now we do our own homework and our own designs?
Yeah.
Things like that.
there had to be a few mistakes along the way.
Absolutely.
So,
But
I mean, as you're moving along, did you have oh gosh, now we have to do this. Oh gosh, now we have to pay attention to this.
And he very well could have gone the path of just show me more new things and we'll keep on importing them. But you turned it into a team where you kind of took responsibility of the next concepts and products that you're going to bring out. So what led you down that path, and how did that kind of transition happen, where you went from that initial trailer that you saw and said, let's market it, to no, we own what we do as MDC?
okay, so how we got here, we were talking about the roads, right? So the roads are nice here. The roads in Australia are crap. And when you're going
I mean,
in,
are they paved?
they are. there's asphalt. So you got your main highways between the cities, right? But when you go out back and you're going into the bush, into country towns, the roads get a little bit how you're going, and sometimes they're not sealed. They're just dirt and rocks, and that's off-road. That's what we do, right? And so...
And my vision is that's a huge part of Australia.
Yes.
How much, I know we always hear about the Outback, how much of Australia is the Outback?
Most of it. So on the inside, it's like a big desert, arid land, but around the outside is where we live. Mm-hmm. So it must have something to do with the ocean and precipitation, the water coming up, comes over.
You get a little water there.
Yeah, and so everything's green.
Right.
But once you start going into the middle, that's where things go. It's arid.
Big sheep ranches and cattle ranches, just
yeah.
Wow.
hundreds of thousands of square miles per ranch, just because that's what you can do there.
So it's like Texas.
West Texas, maybe.
Maybe like West Texas,
Yeah.
where you can drive forever and it all looks the same. The trees are 3 feet tall. I mean, it's all that can grow out there. So to get perspective, do you know the difference in the size of Australia and the size of, say, the US?
They're bigger.
And whatever I say here is going to be wrong. I'm not sure.
Caitlin, Google it and give us the details, because I lose perspective. I mean, and I think most people listening won't know the area that we're talking about. For you to be such a popular product in Australia and to have the majority of the country be
Geared
outback
for it. Right.
and desert, that's very different than what we're used to.
Yeah, and so, people are traveling remote. You can be on your own and you've got a travel trailer behind you. It has to be robust. It cannot fail, because it could be it might be a life or death situation.
Is it like Mad Max, where you see abandoned things off the road that just got left there because a wheel fell off? Or
not MDCs, maybe other brands.
Okay,
Good answer.
I mean, that's kind of
However,
feel.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, because what do you do? There's no one to help you.
And so, if you run into a unscrupulous dealer and the customer doesn't know what they're looking for, and they put them into a product that's not up to that off-road ability, and they take it out, that's ones you'll find on the side of the road. And, that's why our suspension, independent suspension, is the way it is. Mm. So typically on a travel trailer, you'll have a beam axle that goes across, that connects the wheels. And if you hit a bump here, it'll actually affect this here, and the whole trailer could go like this. Independent suspension, they're not connected. Each side goes like this. So if this is a bump, it's not affecting this. It evens out the ride. It puts less stresses on the chassis, less stresses on the van, and less stresses on your tow vehicle. Mm-hmm.
So Clint was talking about like the transition between buying something and reselling it versus now you have to like create your own product, tweak it, design it, be an engineer. Was that fun for you? Or, I mean, you seem very business minded. So was the creative part new and different for you? Was it fun? Was it really, really hard?
I think it's survival. That's what we had to do to survive.
I have a feeling you don't. You're just not. Just. I haven't seen you like be like. I want to know like. It wasn't like fun. Like we get to make this whole thing.
What's
it
exciting?
was just survival. Do you get excited about anything?
I'm excited about being here.
Hey,
I absolutely am.
Good answer.
I love the US. I'm having a great time. I get to drive around in big trucks. We don't have the big trucks you have. I've got a Ram 1500 out the front.
All right, now he's ramping up, talking about trucks. I get a smile now.
Welcome to Texas, or the U.S. in general.
The engineering part, the creative part was just kind of like, this is something we have to do to make this product?
Yeah, I think so. It's a necessity, because you've got the Australian government has a big stick, and if you're not doing the right thing, you're not going to have a business. And that always scared me.
Ah.
And I guess I've been, we were new in the Australian industry. And so, back in the day, the big businesses had been around. We were sort of shaking things up a bit, weren't real happy. with what was going on.
So you have to be real careful
That's
to
a
follow the
classic
rules and do
story.
everything
Yeah.
if you're the
Isn't
new
it?
guy.
I mean, you have the big established ones, and then someone comes out who's smaller with innovation and all that. I guess it's kind of like the old Tucker story, where he brought out Tucker.
Yeah, and
cars.
it was too early.
Yeah,
It was too innovative.
yeah.
So yeah,
I've been there too innovative.
have
So
you? Like what?
in 2014, we built a 22-foot caravan, right? Put it into the market, couldn't sell any because we were too early.
Nobody had seen it.
People weren't going to accept a 22-foot caravan that was imported and not made in Australia. And now, half the market is imported in Australia and they're all off-road. And we created that market. We were the first ones to do it.
That's
And
amazing.
like anything, right, once you have a good idea, people are going to copy.
Right.
Right.
And so when we talk about getting excited, I like being ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
So typically what I have to do, my team, my engineering team, James Field, one day you'll meet him, super smart guy. He's probably one of the most famous RV people in Australia. He's only 35 years old. He used to work for the national body, and then he decided after COVID he wanted to come out and get into private. I chased him around for 2 years and he come work for us, which is great. And he takes care of all the engineering, right? Typically when we bring something out, our competitors will be about 6 months behind us because they'll just study what we do and righto,
Even
guys,
6 months
you
is
need to do what
fast.
MDC's done.
They're watching you close because 6 months is even fast. We've seen things like with our Intech, some of the Intech models. It took Grand Design and Winnebago a number of years to make their
copy.
lookalikes. Yeah,
That
so 6
didn't
months.
work,
Yeah.
by the way.
Yeah.
So
It's funny when you talk about Intech because when we were at the show in Austin, maybe 6 months ago, I ran into a competitor company that was actually sitting inside of an Intech talking to the salesperson. And I'm like, I know exactly what's going on here.
yep, they're copying. They're looking to copy.
And the sales guy I don't think he had any idea.
Yeah. He came and talked to me and said, yeah, those guys were asking me about this and this. I said, do you understand what's happening here? And they said, oh, yeah. They didn't get it.
Yeah, I was
they
right
didn't
across
get
it.
And I was kind of mad, but you know what? Like you
Intech's
said,
an amazing product.
it is.
Yeah.
We are Intech fans here.
Amazing guys. It's a great product. But they are innovative and they come up with things that other people haven't done yet. And then it becomes the cool thing. And that's what you guys did.
Absolutely.
And it's so interesting to hear that a 22-foot was ahead of its time when 22-foot in 2014 in the U.S. was the top-selling trailer.
And I think it's the environment that they travel in. It dictates what's
Maybe.
popular because, as you said, I mean, where do you go in Australia that you don't need a more nimble and robust build? I mean, do you have more of a standard trailer market over there where it's just pavement princesses?
Yeah, I'll have to clarify, and just so we don't give people the wrong impression. A 22-foot van was very popular there. I think the 21-foot 6 is the most popular in Australia. It was MDC. It was unheard of. It was untested.
It's what y'all do at 22 foot.
Yeah, it wasn't built in Australia.
Yeah.
And so the market wasn't ready.
I
However,
see.
come 2024, half the market is what we developed back in 2014. So anything you see there that's not made in Australia is a copy or derivative of what we copied, what we made in 2014.
I see.
The hybrid caravan with the external
see.
kitchen,
Right.
which is half the market now.
Right. Now, before we even started recording, you said, you're in view of Jayco, and I thought Jayco in Australia, and then I asked you, do they produce them here? Do they produce them there? And you said that they're making Australian caravans in Australia for Jayco. And does Jayco make anything that does the off-road stuff?
It's funny you say that because
I don't know because they don't here.
Yeah, here Jayco is not known as an off-road brand at all.
Yeah. So 3 or 4 years ago, Jayco brings out what they call the Cross Track, which is actually a copy of an MDC. How cool.
You're like, does that strike you as
there you
we've
go.
arrived because even Jaco's trying to?
Yes.
Vaughn loves it too. How cool is this?
The
See,
largest,
smiling again.
the largest manufacturer in Australia has made a product that actually competes with us. That we made the first hybrid caravan coming out of China.
Yeah.
Well, those large manufacturers, they're the king of copying. I mean,
It's true.
That's what they do. They look for what's selling and they try to have something that competes. That's natural capitalism.
Because
Yeah,
the
it's
big
just
guys have enough
business.
money to do that.
To say, hey,
Let's
that's
try this
working.
and that.
Let's
Yeah.
lean that direction. So, and I always find that when they do that, they build something that's similar, but probably a little less price, which means they take a few pieces out, which means it doesn't have all of the engineering or all of the robustness that maybe yours do. That's what happens here.
Yeah, they thin out materials
I think
to
that
save costs.
there's
Right.
a place for bean counters. I love bean counters because they keep us
Counting beans.
alive in some ways. However, there's sometimes they get too much, I think, priority and say in quality builds, and I think that's what you see with the Jayco product copying MDC is price point and bean counting decisions being made.
Caitlin, is that the Jayco one you just pulled up? Yeah. To everybody turn around and look at
Everybody,
this picture.
wherever you're listening to
No,
this,
just everybody in this podcast. Look at that.
Looks
that
like
looks
an
like
MDC.
a freaking MDC.
that's almost embarrassing,
Your
Jacob.
graphics are better.
It's called cross-track.
Yes.
Okay. I have another question kind of relating to this. When we talked about the 22-footer and what you built, and you talk about how exciting it is because you get to drive a truck and we have such great roads. What's the difference there? I mean, is it like Europe where everybody drives smaller cars? I mean, what
Yeah.
you got to have something robust enough to tow a trailer. So
All right. So someone's going to have to do the conversions on this because we're going to go into the kilos versus pounds.
Oh man.
Go, Caitlin. Go,
They try to
Caitlin.
teach us in school, but we never get.
We got Caitlin on this.
So I'm going to talk in kilos and someone can do the conversions.
All right.
So typically, yes, smaller vehicles in Australia. And so typically the maximum they can tow is 3,500 kilograms.
Which is,
She's going to be faster. She's on our
oh,
computer.
that feels weird on my tooth.
7,716 pounds.
Well, that's a lot of pounds.
Uh-huh.
That's half-ton truck size.
Yeah, but that's the maximum they can tow.
That's
And
max.
so, yeah, and so a fully loaded, we call them caravans, you call them travel trailers, can't weigh more than that. Otherwise, their vehicles can't tow them. And so,
that
when
is
you-
kind of low.
yeah, and
At
when
that
you
point.
when you building full off-road stuff, like you were talking about materials, there's going to be some weight because
Sure. I mean,
They
the
have-
chassis.
Yeah,
you start with steel.
they got to
A
be
lot of it.
solid, and even the framing is aluminium, right? And it's all
Right.
TIG welded.
Right.
And then you've got your cladding. So there's a lot of weight. So when you go into bigger, those weights get up. We have to buy, and they're only new, American trucks coming into Australia, and there's not many there, and they're super expensive. I'll tell you the costs shortly. When they come over, because we drive on the other side of the road, they've got to put the steering wheel on the other side. And so there's a lot of costs involved. And so the big American trucks, like my work truck here for MDC-USA is an F-150, which I love, by the way. Geez, it's nice.
He's
They're
out
a
there
bit,
Vaughn is
joyriding.
into this
I
truck.
love this.
oh,
I love this. We love our trucks too, by the way.
yeah, it's funny because when I picked up the Ram 1500 last night from Budget Rentals, I've actually taken pictures, sent it back to him. I'm like, look what I'm driving for the next 2 days.
Oh my gosh. So you're saying no trailer in Australia weighs more than 6,000 whatever pounds?
Fully loaded on a typical Australian car.
Yeah.
So when you get into the big stuff, off-road, 22-foot, 24-foot, you have to go buy an American truck. And
So you're talking about like your market basically gets really small
Yes.
when you get bigger.
for full off-road.
I had no idea.
So only the high rollers are going to have the bigger trailers and the trucks?
Well, the truck itself is 150,000. What you buy here for 50 is 150 there. Once they import it and they do the conversion.
Holy.
and there are trucks here that are 150,000. So to get the really nice, rugged 1-ton truck, you're going to be paying what, $200,000 or $300,000 to get it there?
Absolutely.
Wow.
So what are you towing with
That's the blackjack
Toyota?
table.
We love,
Get up to some kangaroos.
we have a Toyota 300 series in our fleet, a Nissan Patrol, which
I don't know what that is.
I think
a
of
Toyota 300
Nissan
series?
Patrol. I think
Cruiser.
is the same thing as a Frontier.
a Nissan Patrol is Armada.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So it's a V8, petrol powered, pretty nice rig.
Well, that's the Armada. I think is based off of their half-ton pickup truck here. Their Titan.
It's more of a, it's a wagon.
Yeah.
So the back's sealed.
It's like a Land Cruiser type thing.
Yeah. In Australia, there's two main brands. You've got the Nissan Patrol and you've got the Toyota Land Cruiser. Toyota is more famous because they're very reliable.
Right.
But the Toyota's diesel and the Patrol is gas. You say gas, we say petrol.
Right. Well, I will tell you, if I go to Australia, I'll be taking pictures of the Land Cruiser I get to drive.
A diesel Land Cruiser? Sign me up.
I mean, that sounds cool.
That's always been like a
awesome.
desert dream machine in my
Right?
mind.
Talk about Mad Max.
yeah. That sounds cool.
It does sound very
So,
cool.
yeah, see, maybe it's
It's
just
funny what
you
we
don't
think is
have.
cool, and what you think is cool. Take my truck.
Diesel Land Cruiser sounds awesome. So,
Where are we in this story?
I don't know,
I'm
but I think
lost.
it's so interesting to kind of get the perspective of what's in Australia, how this was developed, why you got where you were, and, did we ever figure out how Australia compares size-wise? So, Caitlin, give us the scoop here. For those of us who are geographically challenged.
So just the Outback is larger than half of the U.S.
Just the Outback is larger than half of the U.S.
So
That's a lot
if
of dry
Australia
area.
That's a
is
lot of
the
desert.
size of the U.S., then over half of it is no man's land. Is it really no man's land? Because you know
absolutely.
what? We're thinking,
There's a man
West
out there.
Texas, there's a town every 30 miles. Now, it may only have a gas station and maybe not a stop sign, but there is some little something there. Are you telling me you go to the Outback, you'll drive for 2 hours and see nothing?
Longer. It could
Longer
be.
than that?
No, let's say 300 miles.
Between places to get gas.
Yep.
So you don't take a chance that you'll make it to the next town.
Well, you carry jerry cans. That's why we have jerry can holders.
So
Yeah,
it
I'm
is
pretty sure
really out there.
off-road camping in Australia is way more intense
It's
than
the real deal.
off-road camping in America.
Oh, absolutely. You can't just go like 10 minutes down the road to 7-Eleven and top up on
Yeah.
gas or food.
Peach rings?
Cool mints.
Cool mints.
Cool mints.
Now you know what they are.
And a slushy?
So I have two very unrelated questions. One was kind of like what you said, the conversion that needs to take place just to bring a truck over to Australia. What considerations did it take to say, okay, we're going to do this, and this is what it's going to take a design for Australia and bring your whole? I mean, you brought a lot of models over right away. There was some conversion that had to take place and retooling, I suppose. And then the next completely unrelated question, which we may forget, is how much public land is there to travel in Australia? Because there are different places in the States where there's public land to travel, but in Texas, there really isn't.
Okay. Write that down. Public land question so we don't forget.
Okay, got it?
Got it.
Yes, it's huge. The amount of engineering we have to do because we drive on the opposite side of the road to you guys.
Uh-huh.
So our opening door, if the drawbar is this way, is on the left.
Right.
Yours is on the right. We have to completely change everything around, which is a lot of work.
Yeah.
But also when you look at shore power, you guys are 120 volt, we're 240 volt.
Wow.
Now, it's not just a matter of just changing things. It's different components. Are they certified in the US? they're a little bit different to what we do in Australia. So we've got to source all that. But also when you look at wiring, 240 volt it uses half the amps to power an air conditioner than what 120 volt does.
Right.
So your wiring has to be a lot thicker
Right.
for more amps. And, so typically we'll have a 15 amp inlet in Australia on a van that'll run everything. But over here you have 30 amp and 50 amp. So it's a lot different. And so we have to understand how those things work in the US to actually, build the product and bring it over. But also, what are the rules here? Is there any compliance things that we have to meet that's different to what we do there? But also you need to think about aesthetics and the customer using it. Are the potential customers in the US going to use it differently to what we do in Australia, and trying to understand that? So, yeah, there's a lot of moving parts and things going on.
How long did y'all, before we get to the other question, how long did y'all even consider coming over to the US?
It was about a 2-year process.
Yeah.
But the big question is, PJ, how do we go with the product?
How are you doing?
I would say it is well received. We have a lot of interest. We sell a lot of MDC, and I think part of it is the construction and the durability and all of those features that come with it. But part of it is the styling. So what I'd like to do is to answer the question on public land, because that's really interesting. Then maybe we take a break and come back. Let's talk about the actual product, what's in it, why you chose what you chose, how it became such an anomaly of a beautiful interior, the rugged exterior, the components. That's really something we haven't touched on yet that I think is super important. So, but guys, I've had so much fun. I need a quick break and another cup of coffee.
Fair.
So tell us about public land.
Yeah, and so in Australia there are hundreds and probably thousands of national parks where you can camp. And so typically this is sort of around the outskirts, right? So national parks, and they'll have facilities there like toilets, and you can pay like $5 a night per person.
$5 a night? Wow.
Yeah. And that's because that's run by the government, and that's just so they pay for the facilities and the maintenance and taking the rubbish away. Typically when you get into the centre, it's national park as well, but you don't have to pay money. There's so much, you just pull over on the road and set up
So
camp.
that's the typical kind of off-grid camping that people do, is just drive until you find a spot you like and park and camp.
Which I think is similar to BLM land here. Is that right?
Yes, but in Texas,
There's
it
zero
really
BLM
doesn't
land.
exist. So it's super foreign for me, because growing up in Texas, like, you camp because you have a friend that has land, or you camp at a park. If you want to go off grid, you better know somebody, because you can't just pull off on the side of the road and camp. You can in other states, but not in Texas. That is such a weird thing for me.
But do you find that people, okay, that's in Texas, but for instance, if you look at places like Arizona, Utah that have those BLM lands, people would buy the product from a dealer like yourself. They know they can get service and help and information if they need it. They'll take it to these amazing places and they'll use it, and they might go on a tour for 2 weeks, a month, 3 months, whatever, come back here, get their trailer service, which is important because these things are getting beaten up, they're full off-road.
Sure. If you're doing BLM camping, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, that happens all the time, because people, even people that live in Texas want to off-grid camp and they want to explore, and that's the whole point.
Right.
So, there's plenty of us in Texas. We just have to go to other states.
We just have to drive 17 hours.
Yeah, you just have to go somewhere else to do it.
It takes 10 hours to get out of Texas from here. It's a project just to get somewhere else. And what I find with our off-road products that we carry here is that a lot of people maybe don't ever go into those super rural BLM land type camping situations, but they want to know that if they have the opportunity, they can do it. And they also want to know that if they're traveling somewhere and they get stuck, they have an independent rig that can go anywhere. If they're in Colorado and they see a logging road, they don't want to say, oh, do I want to beat up my trailer? No, they just say, hey, that looks cool. Let's go there.
Right.
And they don't want to have to think about it. So
You
I
just
think
described
there
the
is
dream, PJ.
Yeah, there is a whole range of people, not necessarily the rugged off-roaders, that are interested in these off-road trailers like
Right.
MDC. And the leg up that MDC has, as I keep mentioning, is it's not only functional, it has all that, but when you go inside, you do not feel like
You're not wanting anything.
you are not skimping on
Yeah.
anything. I mean, how many times have you heard somebody say, wow, this is so much nicer than my house? And that is the cool part. Anyway, can we take a break and come back and talk about
Yeah.
the camper?
Come back for
Because
round 2.
So much more to talk about here that we didn't even get to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, as it turns out, everybody, we ended that episode thinking we were just going to take a break, but it was a full episode in and of itself. So what we did is we recorded a second part, which will come out later. So this is the end of part 1, interviewing Vaughn from MDC-USA. And I invite you to check out the show notes at rvsmalltalk.com and just check out the video if you want to kind of see Vaughn, meet Vaughn face to face. Check that out on our YouTube channel. Just look up RV Small Talk Podcast, and you can find us on social media. Just look up, again, RV Small Talk Podcast. If you want any information on MDC USA Trailers, please give Princess Craft RV a call or just check out the MDC USA website. That is www.mdcusa.com, where you'll see their full product line and all the details and specs. And I hear that they have some new products that they're looking to introduce to the market coming up soon. So maybe you should follow them on social media as well. Until next time, I'm Clint from the RV Small Talk Podcast, and we will see you next time.